Hi guys, Paul Seils here. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to have a conversation tonight about the voice, and there's nothing probably more appropriate at this point in time. At a point in time when Australia is probably the most divided I've ever experienced it in my lifetime. But what a more appropriate way to do it, and then have a conversation with a couple of original people. So I've got Lurnpa for us. He's in the territory, and I've got Kaiyu Moura, I think you pronounce your last name. And it's awesome to have you both with us. Unfortunately, Cindy can't make it tonight, so great to have you both. Do you want to just introduce yourselves? I'll let you go first if you like, Kaiyu, and I heard you speak recently, and the speech that you gave in Brisbane was amazing. But do you want to share a little bit about yourself and about your mob?
Thank you, brother. Yeah, Kaiyu Moura, I'm known as, but my last name is Bales. I'm from the Bales Watson line, long line of freedom fighters. Just like to firstly acknowledge the custodians whose land this broadcast will reach tonight, and the elders, past, present, future, and the continuing sovereignty of the people's lands all across the world. I'm a Wanarua, Birigubba, Widjabul, same as Cindy Roberts, and a Wiri woman. I come from Redfern originally, but my bloodline country connection, it goes as far as the Whitsundays, inland down to Rockhampton ways, and then come down a little bit to Newcastle, Hunter Valley ways. So I've got a little bit of reach and connection to a lot of mob throughout the East Coast.
Wonderful. Yeah, and I'd also like to, acknowledge your family as well in the mob, and particularly your father, and the strong warrior spirit that he demonstrated, and the friendship that I had with him for a period of time. And he was one of a kind, and I acknowledge him for his contribution and the stand that he was for your people.
Thank you, brother. Thinking of him today.
Yeah.
Always.
It was his anniversary for his birthday last week as well. So he's left a progeny of strong warriors in his path, which is very proud. And Lurnpa, would you like to introduce yourself? I know we spent a bit of time in the territory earlier this year. How have you been, brother?
Yeah, good, brother. Just busy running around, bouncing, dodging and weaving, doing a lot of work with my central, and working hard to prepare to get together a large number of tribal groups from across the region to have some serious conversations. So that's a lot of legwork, a lot of preparation, a lot of hard work. And I'm working with some very, very respected and senior Chilpies that some of these Chilpies have walked out of the desert naked when they were young boys. That's how close to the dream time they are. They were living it. They walked out of it. So we still have that connection, and we still have that opportunity to save the oldest living culture on the planet. And aside from that, I've just been busy working with them on how we're going to work and move forward with the Australian people to find a healthy way to go forward and build a nation based on truth, honor, and respect. So just been busy doing a lot of groundwork, brother, and running around. But I think most people know who I am. My tribal name is Lurnpa Kaiyu. My mother named me David. I was born on Latakia country up in Darwin, and I come from the Pradam tribe in Central Desert, and Wambaya tribe up around Elliot there. And through both my family lines, I've got Scottish and Irish through both family lines, both my white side and my black side. So so Scottish, Irish, Aboriginal, brother. But that's enough for me. Where do you want to go with this, brother? Let's bounce into it.
You've sent me some interesting information, and I think I'm just going to open it up with a couple of memes or whatever you want to call them that are sort of kicking around the internet and that sort of thing at the moment. I'm going to do a share screen here as well, and I want you guys to sort of based on the knowledge that you know, I want you to. This is some of the stuff that's sort of kicking around. I think. It's very interesting, even particularly what we've been through the last 4 years. Now we're having this sort of conversation as well, but this is sort of some of the stuff that's kicking around. So this is from social media and that sort of thing. So people are saying, will having a voice impact me as a non-Aboriginal person? And people saying, no, it will not. I would like both of your comments in relation to that first point.
You first, my sister.
Okay. Well, I sort of left out in my intro that we've been campaigning against constitutional change for 12 years, since about 2011. And we run the page Vote No to Constitutional Change on Facebook. Alice Haynes is the spearhead of that campaign. And so we've got a lot of research. We've looked into this and done our fair share of due diligence. What we've found is that there is a tie, like in this day and age, after 12 years of research, we've found the relationship to the United Nations Pandemic Treaty. And we also know that since its inception, since referendum council started with Twiggy Forrest and Transfield and everything with UME Unity, Generation One, and the Recognise campaign, which everyone seems to have forgotten since COVID, the big Archon. A lot of truthers seem to even forget that we've been through this before and the whole nation rejected it.
Mm-hmm.
But
so can I just ask you about that as well, Kaiyu? What was the intention of the Recognise campaign? Because I missed it on the radar.
Yeah, well, I've got to remember to come back to that point about how it's related to the Pandemic Treaty and the United Nations and the mining interest. Okay, so I'll come back to that in a second. So with the Recognise campaign, that was there was about 4 or 5 different moves before this. So this is about the fifth rebranding of the attempt to recognise Aboriginal people in the Constitution. And the last one people might remember with a little bit of a reminder, the big R that was splashed on the NRL jerseys players until Joey Williams stepped up and said, hey, come on, mate, I don't want a part of this. This is bullshit. It's disgusting. Get this politics off the field, get it out. It was all over the plains. $800 million was spent on that, and people are carrying on now with the 160, 300 million, not remembering the total spent on the campaign before this. And then UME Unity was before that. Generation One was before that. There was a lot of money splashed into this, billions, when we all added up. But what we need to realise is the deception, the trickery, deceit, and like in terms of legalese and codified English that was used in the Recognise campaign, it's all led by Reconciliation Australia. And that's where the doublespeak starts there. We can start with the term reconciliation. Reconciliation can be seen also as a financial accounting term, meaning reconcile the debt. So when they started Recognise campaign, it was started by Reconciliation Australia. It was started by Mark Liebler without any Aboriginal involvement except the godfather of reconciliation, Pat Dodson, one of the Magnificent Seven, who sold us out also with native title. So Reconciliation Australia's grand scheme has been to skull drag the tribes under the jurisdiction of the Commonwealth via recognising us in the Constitution. So another legalese term with double meaning is recognise. Recognise is also a legal accounting term, meaning recognizance means to enter into an agreement with the slave owner and the slave. So we're handing over all of our property. So there's a whole lot of this trickery and deceit as well, like to get to swindle us out of our rights. We got people to understand what was at play, like basically sovereignty is, what's at stake here. And these are the tricks at play to try and usurp us from our sovereignty. And now with the UN, back to the UN and back to the land grab with the mining, the reason that they've invented native title was they couldn't extinguish sovereignty outright so that they could just take the land. So they invented native title so that they could extinguish land rights for mining benefits. When they want to mine, all they have to do is extinguish the land, the native title there. It can easily benefit people financially.
To overturn the native title to be able to mine it?
Sorry?
So they're effectively, what you're saying is they're able to overturn the native title on any property and then be able to get access for mining purposes, etc.
Yeah, and we can actually prove that that native title only exists for mining rights, because if you have a look at Australia's resource map and you have a look at the native title claims, you can see that mining doesn't exist without native title. So somehow they get a native title claim up, and boom, there's mining happening. So it's there to benefit the top end of town. We can definitely say that this is going to be a corporate takeover. And I do believe, just with the inline rail that's coming up and stuff, that people's rights to land and property is already being watered down. And then on top of that, you've got to have a look at, if the tribal people cede our sovereignty knowingly or unknowingly with the help of the population's vote in a yes, in terms of a yes vote at the referendum, we will cede tribal rights. So we will lose access and ownership to our land. And I don't think there's any guarantees to other people's private property either. That's my take on it.
Thank you, Kaiyu. Lurnpa, any comments in relation to that first point there that we were discussing? Will having a voice impact me as a non-Aboriginal person, or non-original person, I should say?
Look, participating in it's gonna affect you, right? This whole thing's a scam. Like, does this country really believe that suddenly everybody cares about Aboriginal people having a voice, while we have the highest youth suicide rates per capita in the world, while we have the highest incarceration rates? Where is the up in arms and crying for our children that are hanging themselves at the highest rates on the planet? Not a word from the corporations, not a word from BlackRock, not a word from all the people in this country that are running it now, because hundreds of billions of dollars have been thrown around by BlackRock and corporations that suddenly care about 1 million tribal people having a voice into a corporate parliament. Every white Australian suddenly cares about us having a voice, but they don't care about our children killing themselves. This is all a smokescreen, people. Anytime the government gives the perception that it cares about the tribal people, it is the flip side. There is a scam going on, all right? A Northern Territory politician told a good friend of mine, his close friend, directly, that tell everybody you're Aboriginal, because in the short term, you're going to be able to get a lot of stuff, right? But then we're going to rip it out from under them and sucker punch them. They won't see what's coming, right? And the reason that's happening, I'll tell you why. Because like Kaiyu was talking about native title, the problem with native title is Justice Kirby, who was a High Court judge, said native title is the cruelest hoax ever imposed on Aboriginal people. And the reason he said is because if you bring up one of the there's one of the documents I sent you, brother. When you bring them up, I could see them down the bottom.
Okay. Can you give me a title or something? It's the joint statement of the.
It's a joint statement. No, not a joint statement. It's a UN resolution. So the adopted might have the adopted resolution up the top. I'll just check what it's titled. Which one I sent you?
Doctrine of Discovery.
No, not the Doctrine of Discovery. It's the one with the yellow.
Yellow highlight.
Yeah, the yellow highlight. Yep, that one there. Okay.
I'll just see if it's this one here.
So what happened is on the 24th of October in 1970, the United Nations passed a resolution 262525.
This one here. This one here, look. Is that the correct one?
Yep. Just leave that up.
Sorry, can you just explain which document this is again?
This is an extract out of it's an extract out of the United Nations resolution, which was passed on the 24th of October 1970. And that resolution stipulated very clearly, as highlighted, that under friendly relations, to bring a speedy end to colonisation, having due regard to the freely expressed will of the people concerned. That resolution was passed in 1970, which stipulated that all lands of the planet must be decolonised. And everyone can look it up. It's resolution 262525. Now, what happened after that resolution was passed? is the Crown vacated these lands in 1973. All right. They formally withdrew because they had to, based on this resolution. Now, the politicians were supposed to do the honourable thing and work out repatriating the land and the tribes back to the land and working out a way forward for the Australian people to move forward with the tribes. They didn't do that. What they did is they quietly registered as a corporation under the US government and registered under Unidroit, UNIDROIT. And so Unidroit is a registered corporate body registered in the Vatican. So the Australian government didn't reconcile with the tribes and didn't do the honourable thing. And what happened in 1973, in order for the Crown and the corporations to keep stealing the wealth from these lands, in 1973, when the Crown vacated, they created native title. Now, the reason that Justice Kirby said native title is the cruelest hoax ever imposed on Aboriginal people is because when our people sign up for native title, the fine print on the back says that we agree that you own the land and we're asking for rights back to it. So it's a trick to give away our land, and that's why mining happens when native title is in play. Right? The land councils are merely corporations under a corporation. The Australian government is a corporation registered in Norfolk Island, Manus Island, and Cocos Island. All right. So that's what people are voting in. They're voting in a corporation that exists on an island off this continent. Right. There is no Australia here. It's a fiction. Right. Everything is deception. Everything is fraud. So this document, this resolution here is why the Crown left in 1973. The Australian government, being a corporation, doesn't have any jurisdiction or authority over the tribal people. The 1900 Constitution, Section 51(26) of that Constitution, stated that these laws apply to everybody of people of every race except the Aboriginal people. And I'm just bringing that one up so I can get you to pull it up, brother.
Yeah, just give me which one does that look like, just so I can find it for you.
Yeah, start at 1.1. Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, yeah, that's it. Okay, so the issue they had is in the 1900 Constitution, it states that the laws don't apply to us. So they had to find a way in how to bring us into their realm, okay, to bring us from the law of the land into their corporate fictitious realm, into their law of the sea.
So when you say this, Lurnpa, I'm just going to quantify here as well. You're referring to the original people here?
I'm referring to the original people. Gotcha. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the original Constitution couldn't make laws for us because they knew we already had a law. A maximum law is first in time, right at law, which means the first law of the land that exists cannot be superseded by any new law. And that's why they couldn't add us into the Constitution, because they knew we already had a law, we had a society, and we had an existence. So in order to bring us in, what they did was you can see the discussion in here. There are previous changes to the Constitution and the current provision which refer to Indigenous Australians, amending the Constitution to recognise the special position of Indigenous Australians and develop of a preamble to the Constitution which could encompass recognition of Indigenous Australians. Now, the reason they needed to do that is because their laws didn't apply to us. So in 1967, if you go to the other one, 5.3, I think.
Yes, there we go. 5.3. So which document are we referencing here again? Where does this relate to?
This is the successful referendum of the 60. This is from the Australian Constitution. The successful referendum of 1967 removed two exclusionary references to Indigenous Australians in the Constitution concerning, the power of the Commonwealth to legislate for the people of any race other than the Aboriginal people of any state, Section 51(26). So this is what they were amending. The reason that they did the 67 referendum, it wasn't so we could vote, it was so that they could force us into their realm and force their laws on us. And that's why we've been governed under this corporate system ever since. They've created a multi-billion-dollar industry off our suffering while we're dying 20 years earlier than most Australians. We have the highest rates in every social measurement. Well, whether it's in health, everything. So what we have is a corporation impersonating a government that's been deceiving the Australian people and the tribal people for a very long time. And they're owned by a foreign power. So I just want to point out that on the, have you got the law of the land?
Doing good. Here we go. Law of the land. So where does this relate to?
You do? Well, this is the Australian government's registered under the US government, right? So what's passed in their courts are prior to these courts. And all laws which are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. All right. Now, from the outset when they came here, they broke all their king's orders. Right. They committed a crime. So Westminster law says that one cannot profit from the proceeds of a criminal act. So everything from day one is null and void. When they altered the Constitution, the 1900 Constitution to the 1901 Constitution, they never held a referendum. And that's why Sir Harry Gibbs, if you can bring up the, did I send you Sir Harry Gibbs's? Yeah, I think it's...
You'll have to tell me what it looks like.
It's got the text with a box in it, and it's page 3 down the bottom.
Page 3, got it.
Yeah, punch that one up. Right, so Harry Gibbs was a High Court judge. He was challenged by a group of Australian people who were telling him that the Constitution laws are invalid. He looked into it. He took this matter to the High Courts in, spoke to his associates in the higher courts in London, and they all came to the same conclusion. And Harry Gibbs makes it very clear here, based on the very fact that the Constitution never held a referendum to alter the Constitution, and everything they've done, every law they've passed is invalid. So Harry Gibbs's opinion is, I therefore have come to the conclusion that the current legal and political system in use in Australia and its states and territory has no basis in law. Now, what we have is a corporation that's trying to stay afloat, brother, right? We have a corporation that is trying to join the rest of the world. And we have a situation where where the current system. So in order to understand this, you've got to look back in history, and we've got to look at the present moment, and we always got to follow the money, because that's what this revolves around. Okay, sadly, it revolves around that thing.
Yeah, that's normally my first comment as well. Quid pro quo is like, who benefits? Follow the money.
That's right. That's right. I'll tell you who's going to benefit. Right. So here's the simplicity in it. The Australian government is a corporation owned by a foreign banking system. It's owned by the UN. They're all corporations. The UN is just a corporation owned by the same banking system, starting from the IMF through to the central banks, down to the US Reserve Bank and so forth, because they're all corporations owned by the same entities. All right. Now, the rest of the world is jumping away from the fiat currency. The US corporate dollar is dead. Okay, it's jumping ship, and they're all going to the BRICS banks and joining the BRICS nations. Over 170 nations have now joined the BRICS nations. In order to join the BRICS nations, you can only join if you own your resource and you have resource-backed currency, or you can't join. Australia's joined or trying to join. The problem Australia has is they don't own the resources. They don't have any currency to back the corporation that wants to join this group and continue to play business around the world. So can you bring up the document with...
Sure. So I'll get someone ask, Hales is asking here, where can we get these documents, please?
Off your screen while we're
okay.
I've sent them to you, brother. I don't know.
And
Look,
just
I don't have time to email stuff out.
Gotcha. So just while we're looking, which file am I looking for next? And I'll give you the next question.
The one with the blue circle around it.
The blue circle. Okay. Also, Jane asked,
Yeah,
do you think not voting at all in this fraudulent corporate fiction is the best bet? Is voting no giving credence to the falsehood?
Well, I wouldn't participate. If you know it's a criminal act, would you go and participate?
Personally, I wouldn't participate in
My
any
answer-
criminal act, but you
my-
know,
No. If
sorry,
you know something,
Kaya's just wanted to interject something there.
You're right, Phil, after you.
Jump into this.
Oh, no, I'm just saying, I think the
How
only
you
vote
go?
that I'd take as an ally or supporter would be a vote of no confidence. I'd be getting organised.
Well, I just wanted to throw something in there. Interesting point, Kaiyu. And the other thing is as well, I'm tracking, I spend a lot of time watch geopolitics very closely, and I'm watching what's happening in the US and that sort of thing as well. Let me ask you both a question. Do you think this is perhaps a preface for to trying to engineer deliberate racism and race wars?
Well, that's what's happening, isn't it, as a result of this?
100%, without question. Without question. And when I finish telling you what I'm going to tell you,
Yes, sorry.
you'll understand why they're starting these wars, right? Now, the reason they're starting these wars, I did this research in 2010. That was 13 years ago. So think about how much bigger it is now. In 2010, 800,000 companies in the United States relied 100% on Pentagon contracts, right? That's why America goes around invading the countries around the world, being the muscle arm for the globalists that are controlling it. The US is their muscle arm, the Vatican's their spiritual arm, and the City of London is their financial arm. This is all a big stage play. It's all a stage play, okay?
Jane's also asked, Australia has been asked to join BRICS, ?
Yeah, well, that's why they're doing. If I can finish what I've got to say,
Sorry,
you'll
okay.
understand why they're doing this. Yes,
Is this? Have I got the right one there? Is that correct?
Sorry, brother. That's him, right? Sorry, I'm actually getting off track here, not you. So I'll finish saying this, and then I reckon you're going to understand a little bit more.
Okay.
So in 2012, I think that says the 31st of May.
Do I have the correct slide here for you?
Yeah, you do. That's him. Okay, this is a quote from Julia Gillard when she was the Prime Minister of Australia on the 31st of May 2012 at 16 minutes past 7, it says there, right? The mining companies were asking for a tax concession and she said no. And she goes on to say, and here's the rub, you don't own the minerals, I don't own the minerals, government only sell you the right to mine the resource. A resource we hold in trust for a sovereign people, they own it and they deserve their share. Okay. So what she told the mining companies is the sovereign tribal people of these lands own their minerals, own their resources. We only hold it in trust and they deserve their share. Right. So in order to join the BRICS, you need to have resource-backed currencies. Australia has applied. Yes. Have they been accepted? I'm not 100% certain on that. And this is why they're rushing through this. They're rushing through this yes vote because it's a contract. It's a contract between a corporation. There's only sovereign to sovereign can treaty, right? And the Crown left it in 73. So what we're left with is a corporation impersonating government, needing a contract with the tribal people in order to have resources to back their currency to join the BRICS. And that's all this is. The corporation's scrambling and the mining magnates know it. They all know it. That's why when we're on the first lockdown, okay, Mullinderi McCarthy pulled me up in Woolworths in Darwin, and she said, and she's a federal minister, right? And she said to me, I'm very scared and concerned about the laws that they're passing in the back rooms while we're all on lockdown. And I said, well, you're a federal minister, do something about it. And she just gave me fear. You know why? Because she can't do anything about it. All right. This beast is far greater than individuals. Every politician, okay, is nothing but a corporate puppet. All right. The Australian government is no more is no more legitimate than KFC and Kmart. It's a corporation. And when people start to really understand the simplicity in that you're not dealing with the government, because if you're dealing with the government, you assume that they've got your interest at heart and they're there to help you and to govern and to assist. Right? Well, they've already proven that they don't care about all of us. Right? This is their last chance. Now, what happened in WA about you can't dig down 16 inches because the tribal people said no? So they're saying this to the farmers while they're blowing up our sacred sites. And they're stealing trillions of dollars of resources while they're giving our people nothing in return.
Well, I found that very, ironic, the fact that mining companies like Rio Tinto were donating millions of dollars. These mining companies and multinational corporations are donating millions of dollars, and Rio Tinto was guilty of blowing up and destroying sacred sites.
100%, and they're still destroying our sacred sites. And that's what the Crown left behind. That's their resource theft machine that's been left here from when they left in 73. So they continue to do that, and they've always done. So what where we're at, brother, is we have a situation where they're pumping millions and millions and millions of dollars. And like I said, foreign corporations like BlackRock suddenly care about 1 million people here. It's obvious. People's lack of common sense sometimes baffles me when they can see what this government's been doing to everybody, and they think they care about us suddenly. So they're trying to lock us into a contract in order to join the BRICS, to have the resources. Let's talk about native title. So 51% of the territory has been reportedly reclaimed through native title. Now, if you go onto my Lurnpa channel on Rumble and you look up, there's a video in there called it's genocidal. What's it called? Genocidal. I can't remember the name of it, but if you go on my Lurnpa channel, there's one there about the genocide, and it's what they're doing is they've already sold off all the land. I've got all the government maps on there, and you can look up all the government maps, and the whole territory's already been sold off. That's what's happening to this country. We've lost everything. We're going to lose everything through this campaign. And white Australia, you ask me, you're going to get hurt. Yes, you're going to lose everything too. And then what they're going to do is they're going to bring in these draconian United Nations laws around all this stuff. And when they need to bring out a big baton and flog you all, they're going to say that the tribal people want this, all right? And then they're going to divide us. They're dividing us now through this thing. It's all a division and a distraction while they're creating more wars to prop up their corporate military industrial complex. And it's all staged. And all they want here is the resources. So everything's deception and fraud from this whole corporate entity. And if you think that a corporation that doesn't care if Aboriginal children kill themselves suddenly cares about us having voice to Parliament, and you've never listened to us for 234 years, like seriously, you've got to have a deficiency of something to actually think that this corporation cares about us, like to our people, like seriously. I know we want better, and I know we hang on for hope, and I know we reach for anything. But come on, look at history. Look what's happening right now, right? Because most of us have lost our tongue. Most of us have lost our law. Most of us have lost our culture. Why? Because it's all designed, and that's where this is going, brother. It's disconnecting us from the and disconnecting us from that connection to Mother Earth, because they're after the resources. That's all it is. Sorry, man, I've gone.
Well, no, it's interesting that you say that as well, because it's still very much in its infancy and early stages yet as well, because of the fact that we're facing other issues like the misinformation and disinformation bill, which is like a template for the state of Queensland nationally, so that we can't actually have these conversations on social media platforms if it conflicts with the narrative, with the official narrative.
Yeah. Well, they're just censoring truth, and that's what we're up
free
against.
Speech.
Free speech, and any time people put facts up, they're insane or
unstable.
All sorts of stuff. Actually, thanks for bringing that up, brother. This one's critical. So why are they rushing? I'll tell you why they're rushing. On the 30th of the 3rd, 2023, the Vatican repudiated the doctrine of discovery. Now, what does that mean? Well, when the English first were colonizing and invading tribal countries all over the planet, the way that they gained that permission was they had a document called the Papal Bull. Now, the Papal Bull got its power from the doctrine of discovery. The doctrine of discovery was a policy that the Vatican had, that they basically claimed right over every living being, soul, animal, river, rock, cloud, star in the entire universe. So therefore, they had the right to take over any lands that they chose to, and they had the right to teach their beliefs to any people that are there. So the Vatican, through the doctrine of discovery, gave the English the papal bull and the permission to come here. And any time we've stumped them in the courts with sovereign arguments in the past, what the judges have pulled out as their final card is the doctrine of discovery. And they've said, well, we had the right to be here, and the Vatican gave us that right. Now, that right was revoked on the 30th of March, 2023. And in there, the Vatican has made it very clear that they would like governments of the planet to assist in the repatriation process. They discussed that it is not a part of the church's practice, and it also discusses in there respect to humility in the Catholic Church. Point 7, scroll up or down, number 7. Yeah, it says in no uncertain terms, the church's magisterium upholds the respect due to every human being. The Catholic Church therefore repudiates those concepts that fail to recognise the inherent human rights of Indigenous people, including what has become known as the legal and political doctrine of discovery. So they have revoked it and taken away any legal rights that the Crown or any corporation had to be here from 1788 and prior to that and up until now. So the Vatican is wiping their hands clean of a 234-year-old crime scene. That's what's happening. Okay, they've told the governments prepare to hand it back. The governments have gone, no, we're not going to hand it back. We're going to go from the native title scam to the next scam, which is a voice into Parliament, so they can deceive everyone into believing that we have a contract. We don't have a contract because they haven't consulted with us. We haven't had full disclosure. No one's seen the full contract, and no one's seen the small writing. And this is what they did with native title. So we're being deceived. White Australia's been deceived. They're going to take everyone's wealth. They're going to control everyone. And when they need to divide us to control us, they'll hurt you while using us as a justification for doing that. But I can assure you, the tribal people of this nation are not interested in this contract. And we'd rather walk with the Australian people and build something healthy together, something that looks after you and something that looks after us. Yeah, and that's the conversations I have with my elders, and they want to walk with everybody to create something healthy for all of us. That's the message I bring to you, brother.
That's great. And I want to, before we close out tonight as well, I'm just conscious of time. I don't want to take too much time, but when we close out, I want to just revisit that conversation that we had about the rainbow prophecy and that sort of thing as well. And, I've been tracking this for a long period of time and been involved in this space for the last 4 or 5 years, particularly in relation to the UN and the World Economic Forum and, all those conversations, catchphrases and cliches like you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. And people say, how will they do that? And this sounds like a perfect strategy in relation to that, for fulfilling that vision.
Yep, 100%. Look, everything they're preparing for the one world, new world order stuff, rolling out really, really hard. They've already practiced on the tribal people right under your noses. All right, they did the intervention for a reason. Give us basic cards for a reason. You're all going to get a basic card. All right, you're all going to be living how we've been living for the last 15 years in our communities. That's what's coming. Everything's been practiced on us, trialed on us, prepared for you. So everyone's going to lose out, brother. Don't participate in this fraud. Don't participate at all. And know this, that you can't vote to be included into your corporate realm. All of Australia, every person, we cannot vote to forcibly include you into. If I said, hey, Paul, guess what? We got together all the tribes and we've all voted to include 26 million white Australia or mixed everyone Australian people. we're going to include you into our governance, into our system, into our law. How great's that? How would you feel? How would everyone else feel? Your first thing is, well, you didn't even ask me, did you?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's where we're at. You haven't even asked us. You don't have the right. White Australia cannot vote for us to be forcibly included into your corporate realm. You're participating in fraud, ethnic cleansing, and systematic genocide. Know that. That's the reality.
Yeah.
And you're killing our culture.
Kaiyu.
Sorry,
Yeah, just
Kaiyu.
no,
That's
sorry.
what I'm
I want to just reaffirm what you were saying, right back to section 51.23, and why they're trying to fix it today. Like a lot of people were in Australia, you know, black and white, don't understand what 1967 was about. They think it was, you know, the citizenship. They think it was the right to vote, when in fact it was just the removal of those words, you know, thinking that that gave them the power to make laws for us. But they're finding out since cases like Love versus the Commonwealth that they actually don't have the jurisdiction over us, and they're finding out that we are actually the sovereigns, and the High Court can no longer deny this. So they have to also they have to act fast, you know, to do something about it. So a lot of people wouldn't understand that to interfere with a sovereign nation, you have to declare war and win. You have to, it has to be, they usually use the doctrine of terra nullius, or they'll enter into a peace pact. So they failed with the first two, and they should be entering into some sort of, you know, peace treaty, peace pact. And instead, as they do, they're doing this dishonorably. They're tricking, like David said, they're tricking the Australian nation, black and white, into thinking that they're helping the black fellas, when we know for their track history and their record, they don't do this sort of business. From careful observation over the 200 years of occupation, they don't act honorably when dealing with the tribes. So they're tricking everybody to believe that by adding the words Aboriginal back into the Constitution is a good thing, when in fact all they're really trying to do is to legitimise their occupancy and gain their own political sovereignty, so that they can negotiate with these big UN, you know, with the international players in the, you know, in the oligarchs that rule the UN and the WEF. And it will be a case of own nothing and be happy, because you can log on to your local council website and you'll see plans for the smart cities being rolled out in a town near you. If that's not confirmation enough for people, you know, if you want to still call it conspiracy theory, to know that smart cities are coming, then, you know, like, not only do we have the misinformation bill, the global ID, the global currency, the treaty pandemic, smart cities, and 15-minute cities.
Central bank digital currencies.
Yeah, digital.
Yes.
We've got a lot, and you can confirm it all with another document called Our United Agendas on the United Nations website, where they're actually talking about digital, digital currency, a global digital currency, and a global ID is also being tabled and talked about. It's published also on the United Nations website. So, like, I think we've got to not be too distracted by this voice, because that's ultimately what it is. I think now, you know, that we've got a little bit of a reach here more and more every day, we need people to understand that the tribes have not consented to this. And I can say that because we have, from Freedom of Information documents obtained from the dialogues, the Uluru National Dialogues that took place around the country, majority of those dialogues state that the attendees were against, so they voted against constitutional recognition. And you got the grassroots mob, you got the senior law people, and the activists, the black sovereigns. You know, we're all saying no to this. It's a lot of people who aren't in the know, who are being paid, that are voting yes for this. I don't think you'll find many people, you know, in the earlier group that I mentioned, in the unpaid sovereign, and the people who practice our old ancient law system. None of us will support this, you know, because we understand this is undermining our sovereign rights. And we understand that by being mentioned, even by being mentioned once, and you can Google this, we are not mentioned in the Constitution once And this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to just put us in there and trick everybody into believing this is nothing. It's a good thing. We're recognizing Aboriginal people. No, they realize that they took us out back in 1967 when they took away the words to make powers for Aboriginal people. When they took those words out, Aboriginal people back then, it took away the power for them to make laws for us. And they're only just realizing that. So they're trying to fix that. And you can have a look. We're not in the Constitution once, and that's really what all this is about. Because by ceding tribal sovereignty, you understand they're going to finally try and legitimize their occupancy as an invader force. At the moment, to be honest, to use a legal maxim, they are here persona non grata. For those of you who aren't familiar with that, that's actually like a war term for being here, invading a country. You're unwelcome. You're unwelcome aliens imposing your law on a people against their will. That's what's really going on here. And, instead of being ever dragged over the coal any further with these decolonisation checklists and regulations and the watchdogs, they have to act like they're doing something and not get dragged over the coal. So they're going to try and grow Australians' political sovereignty by tricking the Australian population into usurping tribal sovereignty with this legalese, codified English, doublespeak, and it's actually a fraud, because what they're selling to the Australian public is that this is going to be of benefit to the tribes, when it's actually to the detriment. We will have no tribal rights. This is assimilation. It's a genocide, because on paper we will not exist. We will have no rights. As the oldest culture on earth, we will have no say over our land. And, I feel sorry for these fellas that are selling us out. And I know that I hope that most of them are doing this because, like they say, they know not what they do.
Yeah.
But for those that do, they got to answer to the ancestors when this is all said and done. And we better be thinking very carefully, because this is going to affect black and white many generations to come. We're going to have a big fight on our hands for the water, for the air, for the land, to keep it clean and to have access to those natural resources, because the globalist elites, you look at their 2030 goals on their websites, they don't want people to take anything from the earth. It's got to be synthetic or man-made for us to be able to justify our existence. We're useless eaters in their eyes. They don't want us to touch that stuff. They're going to lock us out of all these places. The national parks are all reserved for the rich elites. Wild zones where we'll be locked out of, and we'll be in our 15-minute smart cities. So if we don't fight hard now, and don't be distracted by this, and don't realize this is just like the bankers again who started all wars in history. It's the same bloody puppeteers, pulling the strings of the totalitarian
oligarchs.
Oligarchs that have been controlling this, and it's just the same rule book. The same players, different players are the same old rule book for the last 300 years, more than likely, from what I've seen.
Yeah, incredible. This sort of interfaces back with a conversation that I had back with your father probably about 25 years ago as well, Kaiyu, and that was that that they had no original claim under law because it was taken under ailing, like they didn't have any proof or evidence of rights to access to it.
Yeah, so if I could reply to that, I'd love to, actually, because after 12 years of campaigning, it's only been this year that we've actually got the experts. We've got constitutional professors that have come forward and proven that all claims to sovereignty and to the land are based in fraud. There's a thing called frame transforming, where they frame transform the, say, let's use sovereignty, for example, and they use the Western Sahara case. I think this is a perfect example, and they try and justify the theft of the sovereignty by saying that it's nothing more than a spiritual notion. It's, they're saying that basically they can make us look like brutes as well, like we are not worthy of human rights, which they actually, I think they invoke those sorts of rulings and powers in the Western Sahara case, which determined the sovereignty of the people's land whose that case was about. And they so basically they frame transform, and they look at us like we're not worthy of true justice. They get the whole hidden history thing happening and the divide in the country. And there's a frame transformation where we don't even get talked about, you know, and then they offer you a tokenistic voice. It's like, no, excuse me, you've just changed the whole outlook of our people and made us in our peers in the population's eyes like we are nothing. So we have no right to claim the autonomous control of our land. We have no right to demand proper justice. It's a frame transformation to make us feel like we're powerless when in fact we have the autonomous control. We have the ultimate power of our land, of our water, of our people, of our airspace. But we have been made to feel like we don't. So it's this racial oppression that's used it's actually secret weapons of silent war.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
and when you mentioned that as well, for anyone that doesn't know about Kaiyu, he's referring to what's being projected against humanity, not just in Australia, but in the world, particularly after the last couple of years. Dr. Robert Malone in the States has a documentary that you can find on Rumble called Fifth Generation Warfare. And that's what it refers to, the technology that's about disinformation, about censorship, about creating divide and conquer, and has people be completely disenfranchised and feel small and powerless. So check that out if you get a chance. But yeah, invisible weapons for silent wars.
That's it, sorry. And on that, I'd like to put a call out to the international community, to any true human rights lawyers, advocates, legal representatives that can help to really suck it to these guys, you know, with a legal challenge and scrutinize this referendum in the final hours and shut it down. We know that we've got grounds to. We just need the legal backings. We are a lawless colony, as David beautifully pointed out there, with all of the well-documented research and slides. We need intervention. We need scrutiny. We need legal experts to come in and back the tribes.
Yeah.
And the reason we need that is because I had a conversation with a particular ambassador for a foreign nation, and what he mentioned to me is that I needed to understand the position they had in relation to having an agreement and a contract with the Australian government. And like I reminded him, which is what I remind the international community, you have an agreement with a corporation impersonating a government, committing genocide against the oldest living culture on the planet. When we lose our culture, you all lose. When we lose our culture, we all lose. Humanity loses. And when we lose our culture and we lose that connection to Mother Earth, no one's going to gain from that, and Mother Earth will suffer. So this is far greater than individuals or race or culture or political views or anything else. This is about humanity, survival, and looking after Mother Earth and playing our role. And my late father, who adopted me, Mr. Gurawiwi, the Yadaki healer for this continent, that's his $1, his Yadaki on the $1 coin. He said to me before he passed, he said, I want you to unite all the tribal people across the land. And I want you to unite the tribal people with the Australian people and stand as one to protect the water, to protect the future, to protect the gupu, the water, that's life. It holds our DNA. We must work together. We must stand together, or we're going to lose the whole lot. We're going to lose not only everything that you think you own, but we're going to lose your right to breathe good air, to drink good water, and to eat good food. And then that's a human, that's a natural right that we should all have. And we're pushing back against this corporate beast. But like Kaiyu said, we can't do it alone. We need international support, legal people, but we need the Australian people to see that this is nothing but a scam, and we need you to stand up and push back against this whole charade and stand with us to build something healthy together. And if we don't do that, brother, well, then we're giving in on our children, and that's the truth.
Absolutely.
And I think I just wanted to add to that. A lot of people don't like to hear it, but we are actually like the last defense, but we also the globalist elite's worst enemy as well, because everything that they're trying to do, we've got a solution for. So they're saying there's not enough resources to maintain the human population. We're saying, yes, we got the way. We can live in peace, balance, and harmony. We've got the blueprint. Ancient people all around the world. So we're a big threat to their world agenda because we offer a solution that opposes their agenda. We've got a way that people can live on this earth in peace, balance, and harmony, you know, and it's been proven with their science also that the future's biodiversity depends on ancient people. And, you know, if we keep on getting removed off our country, and if you look at BlackRock's interference with New Zealand and Maui and Canary Islands, I think you're going to see a pattern. There's an actual attack on sovereign people's lands here. And it's actually, we are on the front line of humanity's defense, because if they break down, you know, like if you think about it, if our methods that have been passed down since the beginning of time, of only taking as much as we need, of walking lightly, of caring for Mother Earth and living in peace, balance, and harmony, if that is what is going to make sure that our species in the future are not extinct, taking blackfellas and ancient people all around the world off their country means that, you know, that there's no safeguard to these to the species extinction into the future. We are that safeguard. So that's why there's such an onslaught or an assault on tribal people's sovereign lands and our way of life, because we offer the solution, you know, for people to come together, to be empowered, to come together around the things that matter and get back to basics. They don't want that. They want the 15-minute cities. They want the transhumanism. It's the opposite of what we offer. And we offer what everybody, we're all tribal people. We're all primitive. You know, we all crave that old life. You know, we've all got that back in our genes, no matter where we come from. We're Aboriginal. My grandmother used to say, we're Aboriginal to somewhere, every single one of us. And they're taking us further away from the basics, from our primitive, you know, core, who we are in our beings, in our spirit. And they want us to get further into their world and further away from who we really are on the land and connect with all the natural resources that humans need to thrive. So you can see what I'm saying, where I'm going with this. This is why tribal people are a huge enemy of the globalists. We offer the solution for, you know, for people to do better, to thrive, to be happy, to share the resources, to live lightly on the earth, and to make sure that the future species are safe into, you know, a safe way, well into the future, hundreds of years in advance. They don't want that, you know, they want control of everything and they want us locked in. So we need to make sure that we throw all of our support behind tribal people, and that we look all around the globe and make sure that we've got our eyes open, you know, that there's a stand up to the globalist elites all around the country that are trying to disempower, take our land, exploit tribal people. And, you know, I think there's one more thing too. We offer, as silenced as we are in the world, like, you know, blackfellas in Australia especially, we're not heard very much. We don't have a platform out there that people can hear us. And I think like one thing that my grandmother's brother taught me was that it's only going to take 0.025% of the population to become self-sufficient for us to actually crash this system, the global elite system. That's how fragile their economic system is. Even though we feel like we're beat, even though we feel like everything's against us with everything that we've talked about tonight, that we've got to fight, even if the yes vote, if we beat this vote, you know, if the no vote gets up, we still got a lot to fight. We've got to remember that even in, we can translate that into everyday terms, like turn it into, on a Friday, we don't get petrol, we don't do banking, we don't do our shopping. You know, we've got to look at how we are contributing to these 5 made companies that are oppressing humans globally. How do we cut that off? Let's not be short-sighted and just talk about the referendum and everything. We've got a far bigger picture. When the referendum's gone, we've still got the same 5 companies oppressing us. And I reckon we need to have a look at strategic economic boycotts and stuff like that. Like, the people have a lot of power. 0.25% of the population to be self-sufficient. That's all it would take for us to challenge this and break this fragile system. We have the power, and, you know, power to the peaceful, people, people power.
Absolutely. Beautiful, Kaiyu. And then for anyone that doesn't know, that's listening to this, that not knowing the companies that Kai is referring to. We're talking about companies like BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, Morgan Stanley, all those companies, and they've clearly stated, interfacing with other programs like the World Economic Forum and etc., that they're out to own as much as as close to 100% of the earth as they can by 2030.
And the biggest landowner, right? The biggest landowner right now, just to finish up, was the Queen's, you know, and then behind her was Nicole Kidman and her family.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, Lurnpa, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, and if you want to know what companies to boycott, it was the ones that all stayed open when everything else was shut down. That's the ones that, And something Kaiyu said, which is correct. We are the last stance. Now, I've been looking at this issue for close to 20 years, and I've been looking at it from a legal perspective, common law, natural law, from a sovereign tribal law, from every angle, and it's as simple as this. There's a US military document. It's last amended in 2016. It's an international laws of war and occupation document. Now, in that document, it states very clearly that statute overrides common law. That's why everyone going into the courts having these common law arguments are getting thrown out, and the judges are going, well, we're under statute. So it says in this military document that statute overrides common law, and the only thing that overrides statute is the returning sovereign. Now, we've advised this corporation that we have returned. We've advised the Australian government, the US military, that we have returned. They're just doing what all corporations do. They're ignoring us because the African nations are kicking the Westerners out and the globalists, right? Mm-hmm. This is their last land to steal the resources from. This is why they need this desperately, to prop up the whole globalist system. Now, 80% of the world's gold is coming out of WA alone, from stolen resources on tribal land. So this continent alone can prop up the globalists and those elites for a very long period of time. So they desperately need this, and they're using the Australian people to trick you into forcing us into a contract that we don't want no part of. That's going to hurt us and all you. So the Pope said in 2017, the only hope for the planet is Indigenous sovereignty. And the reason being is we're dealing with corporations, not governments, and the tribes do not have a contract, a treaty, an agreement, or any binding contract that locks us to this corporation that gives them the right to do what they're doing to us and you on these lands, right? So they need a contract desperately. They couldn't do a treaty. They couldn't get recognition. When they did recognition, they took $500 million from Indigenous health. Right. So this is their last attempt. To all the Aboriginal people out there who are pushing this agenda, okay, you're pushing this for the Aboriginal citizens that accept their realm. You're not pushing this for the sovereigns. This has no bearings on us. This whole agenda and this whole referendum is a fraudulent act, because the Constitution and the very laws that it's relying on to conduct this has no basis at law, according to a High Court judge. So it's one big scam, all right? And we're going to lose out. So we are the last stance. Stand with us, and together we can create something together that's going to benefit everybody, bring prosperity and abundance to all. But most importantly, working with us, working with the tribes to push back this corporation to set up something healthy for all Australian people is going to result in your great-great-grandchildren and my great-great-grandchildren drinking good water, breathing good air, and eating good food. And that's our responsibility as the ancestors, brother. They're going to be looking at the future if we allow them to exist through poor decision-making or positive decision-making now. But they're going to look at this in the future and ask, what were we doing when they were trying to take away all their rights to even breathe good air? So this is our responsibility, and as people, we're inviting the Australian people to walk with us, because our intention is to create something beautiful together, not to bring people down as the system's doing to us all. So I'll finish on that one, bro.
Well, just let me say in closing as well, I'd just like to acknowledge both of you for being on this meeting, on this call, and this recording for people who are watching it after the fact. But just in closing, we need to, like, the unity with the white fellas and the original people moving forward. But when we spent time together, when we're up in the territory earlier this year, you also shared with me you spoke to me about like the rainbow dreaming. You just want to say,
What?
talk a little, the rainbow dreaming, like the unity, bringing the community together, bringing the tribes together.
Well, you know, that's what the Wittichin gathering was about. You know, the Wittichin was a prophecy from down South Australia across to Victoria, all around that region, and it was a prophecy that one day a light-skinned man, a non-tribal man, will come to these lands, and there'll be a lot of suffering and pain for a long time, but it will reach a point where the black and the white will walk together to create the new, and the new will be something beautiful and something special. And that's the point we're at. We've reached that point where we must stand together. You see, I don't see this from color, brother. Right? Yeah. I'm a Prudham and Wambaya and Scottish and Irish tribal man. That's who I am. So I see this from the perspective of caring for our families, our children, our people, and humanity, and Mother Earth, and our culture and nature. That's the only angle I look from. And I can assure you, the sovereign tribal people of this continent are the solution. These corporations know it. This foreign banking system knows it, and they're trying to railroad us all. And I just hope the Australian people can see through the smoke screens, and the tribal people. Well, you've been belted for 234 years. I thought you'd be smart enough to know that when this corporation says that they want to help you, that they're actually hurting you. That's been the history up until now, and it'll continue. So love and respect to everyone. And look, I just want to finish on this note and say to everybody out there that was considering, for me personally, to be voted into a corporate system without my consent or my knowledge, I want to say thank you for your consideration, your respect, and for your concern about our people. Okay, but I personally declined the offer of contract. Thank you.
Yeah,
because I just wanted to just touch on that as well. And just, you know, for those who think that they are doing the right thing, helping black fellas, I would advise mob to allies, mob supporters to talk to black fellas. You can't go into this and cast your vote without talking to the people that it affects. All these people with these well-meaning intentions and regurgitating propaganda really need to get back to mob, black and white. And I am human first. It's funny, I happen to be Irish and Scottish and Aboriginal too. So I copy in you, David. I'm Irish, Aboriginal, tribal woman.
Yeah, there you go.
But so, and I'm human first, you know, before any race, I belong to the human race. And you're all my people, all my brothers and sisters, and we all know that we've got the 7 strands of the human DNA. We everybody's oldest cousin. But I just wanted to say, you know, when people are talking about this thing, we want, this is the right thing to do. If we don't do anything, you know, we're going to get it wrong and stuff.
All the white fellas, if that. Sorry, I was just going to say that the thing that they're trotting out at the moment is that if you vote no, that you're racist.
Yeah, okay. Well, what they need to understand is they need to go and talk to black fellas. That's government propaganda. And you clearly haven't spoken to grassroots black fellas around the fire. And that's even black fellas. You know, you need to go and talk to the elders, the people of the front line. We need to talk about that because we didn't elect those 250 people. We got to get that straight. We also got to get another thing straight that makes the whole cause fundamentally flawed. That old fella, and Uncle and David can back this up. They had never gave permission for that name to be used for the Uluru Statement. Makarrata has also they've been told not to use that, and it's very public. The statements have all been official to the government, to the people of the Referendum Council. So from the very beginning, it's flawed. And like I said, we've also voted against constitutional change. So when people say we're doing the right thing for blackfellas, you need to bring up the fundamental issues with this to say, no, you're wrong, because and we can prove these things. The tribes have not consented. Sorry.
Yep, that's right. Sorry, my sister. No, I interrupted you. I thought you were done. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing it again. Go.
No, I'm just saying, and I think the one thing that we all need to be saying is Jukupa is, I think that's how we say it, but our old law has to be, like I'm really, really grateful for this opportunity because finally, for the first time, Australians are having the conversation about legitimate occupancy and sovereignty and understanding that our law was the first in law. So we are the best in law. Our law is the supreme law of this land. And I think that that needs to be remembered. That needs to be the buzzword of this time is, that we maintain the sovereignty, but it's our old law system that is still in place today, and that needs to be the one that has us, that's the one that's going to look after everybody. And I think if we could get Australians right now to understand the importance of our law system and how much we need that right now, and understand that we don't have a Bill of Rights. The Constitution just sets out how the government is to conduct itself. We have nothing as a Bill of Rights to protect the individuals, the population from the government. We need a Bill of Rights, and we need a constitution that's not just an act of British Parliament. We can do better than this, Australians. And I think, everyone who calls Australia home needs to come to the table and demand better, and, give them a vote of no confidence. This ain't good enough. They're trying to treat us all like dopes, and you tell anybody who wants to use the emotional blackmail that voting no is racist and voting no is dumb, and all thinking that because you don't know you're voting no, you just let them know that out of principle you're voting no. You've done your research, and get them to go. And if they're not going to do their research and listen to grassroots mob who've been holding the baton for the last 50 years for land rights on the front line there, then they've got no right in assuming they know what's best for Aboriginal people. We've been doing this for 230 years. We've got to learn from our mistakes and stop this, thinking that we know what's best for the tribes again. I think it's disgusting.
Yeah.
Spot on, sis. And the word is Jukupa. So Jukupa is the only law that holds any validity on this land. And if I can just say to all the non-tribal people out there that who have been emotionally blackmailed into believing that if you vote no, that you're a racist. If you vote no, you're doing the right thing, all right? But I'd go one further. I'd say just don't even vote. Don't play the game. Don't participate. It's all fraud. So you're not racist if you don't vote. You're actually smart. And look, the Uluru Statement, yes. Uncle Murray George just travelled to Uluru and to make it very clear that the Uluru Statement was not signed from their family, and it's not their words. The Uluru Statement was written by Mark Liebler, who heads up NITV, and all he's the head of all the Indigenous organisations in this country. He's the guy, he's the puppet master behind all of this stuff, right? Along with people like Thomas Mayer, who's pushing the agenda of the Uluru Statement, which was not legitimised by the family they were standing with. They didn't know what was being done, and the family have withdrawn that statement and any connection to that for them. So that just tells you how deceptive they are, people. This is the kinds of games they play. This is but another game. So, but Jukupa, yeah, it's the only law that matters on this.
Yeah, I've heard some of that documentation for the Uluru Statement actually came out of Africa as well. Lurnpa was taken from some of the documentations in Africa.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
You got to remember that apartheid was developed in Western Australia, and when the South Africans adopted it, they said that was too harsh and they watered it down. So still had it implemented here in a very, very, very quiet manner, but not quiet for us, everyone else.
Just a word of warning.
So was that, sister?
Yeah, just a word of warning. If this yes vote gets up, we really need to fight, because there's 198 countries signed up to this World Pandemic Treaty. And I don't think many people understand the threat there. That gives the United Nations World Health Organization the legally binding powers to come in and interfere with our country and the other countries signed up in the next pandemic. And a lot of people miss the point that we already adopted parts of the international health regulations that make up the treaty into the Biosecurity Act of 2015. And what I'm talking about in particular is the right for the health officers to forcibly detain and forcibly vaccinate or medicate.
Yeah, through the revision in it was revised in 2017 as well.
And it made worse to look at biosecurity threats, but bioengineering and stuff like that, biomedical, looking at biogenetics. But the threat there is, I don't think people realize that's 2015. That's a bit of forward planning. 8 years ago, they have got parts of the IHR, the International Health Regulations that make up the World Pandemic Treaty, are already adopted in Australian law back in 2015, ready for the next move. So if people want to roll over easily now, we got one hell of a fight coming up with the pandemic treaty, because what happens if Australia grows their political sovereignty, which they can with a yes vote, if we don't squash it in there's many ways that we can squash it, but worst case scenario, they get the yes vote up, they can dance around and say we've grown our political sovereignty, we've usurped on paper, we've usurped the tribal sovereignty, we can now sign the pandemic treaty because we are a sovereign nation.
Yep.
And pandemic treaty, in comes the WHO. So if people, if people want to vote yes now, be ready. That's all I got to say.
Anything to add to that further as well, Lurnpa?
Yeah, 100%. Here's my prediction. The backroom meetings Mullenderry McCarthy was talking about was the mining magnates putting in place a republic. I know that the deals are probably already done. The treaties are already done. What Kaiyu was talking about with the UN, the World Economic Forum, they've got a republic in place ready to go. Once they say that they've got a contract with the tribes and they own the resources, are going to join the BRICS, and they're going to govern us with a iron fist, controlled by a foreign banking system that's here for the resources, with no care for the Australian people or the tribal people of these lands, nor our lands. So that's my prediction, is they're going to say it's through. We have a republic. Nobody can tell them what to do, and look out for what's coming. Kai is right. They're going to bring in stuff, and they're going to bring it in force. So it's stand now or lose the.
You're right. You're actually right, and people can do their due diligence. Don't believe us. Go online and check that the Republic portfolio has already been set. There's ministers of the Republic that have been announced, and Nova Peres-Kneebone is chairperson of the new Republic.
Correct.
Wow.
There you go.
That's incredible.
That's all public information on the government websites.
Amazing.
Anyway, so we've got to be vigilant. We've got to stick together, and culture up front. We've got to have faith in our tribal people, and understand that's where our power lies, at being together in our old ways that we all came from. That's where our strength lies, in our old human connections, community, putting the unity back into community. And remember, unity starts with you and I.
Deadly. Hey, just one thing, brother and
Yes.
sister, to all the Aboriginal people out there that are trying to speak up for this. Like I said before, it's under our law. You can only speak for your country, and you can only speak for your country with the consent of your elders. So if you want this and you want it for your country, then you work that out with your tribe and your people. But you can't speak for other people's country. So if tribal people can't speak for other people to vote us into something we don't want no part of, then White Australia has even less right to do that. So we can't be forced into this. And the sovereign tribal people are standing strong, and we're standing strong for all of us, not just for us. It's for everybody to bring it together.
Yeah.
That's number one, what he just said there. That's the number one thing. We don't speak for other people or their land.
You don't speak for
you can't, or you're breaking our law.
You can't speak for another mob.
Yep.
Not all their land. It's against our law. So that's a cultural, consideration that allies need to really put first. And it's probably blackfella way to bring it up last, because people are going to remember that. That's the most important.
Yeah.
Thank you, David, for that too, Lurnpa.
No
And
worries,
thank you
my
for
sister.
having us. Been
Yeah,
deadly.
brother.
Thank you, Dawn.
Thanks for having us on. And I
It's
hope
been
the
great.
discussion
It's been
brings us
great.
all up.
Like, it's just been great to listen, and it's been great to, I know there's a lot of questions that are in the live stream, and that's the thing that I haven't been able to get to because we've
I'll
covered
try and
so
answer
much.
some later on.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll try and answer some later on. Sorry, that's our fault.
that's all good. It's been
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
It's a conversation that's been long overdue, and I'm really honoured and privileged to have been able to share it with both of you and your mob.
Big love, brother. Both
Yeah.
of you. Love yous, eh?
Big
Yeah,
love.
love you, sis. Thanks, my brother.
Okay.
And say no. You're not racist. You're smart.
Shut it
One.
down. Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Thanks for listening. To be continued. Stay tuned.